Here's the real like head scratcher for me at least is that we did this whole thing and as soon as you guys go in, you know how I mute myself because I have to finish typing. I only need to finish one entry. That's it.
Wow.
And I know what I'm gonna say.
Right
Holy
on.
Prep, man. What's going on?
I'm not saying I'm prepared, but I at least have words together on a page, which may just be half the battle.
I mean, considering that I'm usually writing up the last part of my reviews as I'm talking about a different review, like I think you're totally fine. I'm writing my number 1 as I'm talking about my number 3.
I'm not currently writing my honorable mentions as we do this, so
we're gonna stall for a few minutes here. And,
no, that's okay.
No, we're not. We're pros. We got this. We do it literally every month.
The pinnacle of professionalism.
The pinnacle of professionalism? Are you talking about the Dan and Shay It's Officially Christmas double album?
I don't want to talk about that yet. It's coming, but I don't want to talk about it yet.
Do you know, is that as you said those words, I processed those words, and I was hoping that's not what I had heard.
It's what you heard.
You heard exactly what you heard.
The existential dread sunk in.
If it helps, there was also a Christmas drop from Ben Folds this month called Slayer. Get it?
Yes.
Oh, a sex thing. Yeah.
It is now.
It is now, right here on the Fairly KickAss podcast. The old noggin is not going to be what it usually is, which is not saying a lot about what it usually is. Don't get me wrong, but we're going to be reaching different depths than typically. And by we, I mean Zack, a little bit under the weather, as you can tell. I mean Jay and Dan, who are, as far as I could tell, as much under the weather as usual.
Well, as much under the weather and or sheets to the wind as usual.
That's fair. That is fair, and it is encouraged. Fairly KickAss podcast. We're doing the thing that we always do every month. We go through and review all of the new stuff, and by new stuff I mean newly released albums, newly charting singles that newly chart in the top 40 of the Billboard Hot 100. If you'd like to learn more about the Billboard Hot 100, we had a whole episode where we talked about it, and we'll tell you how to get there later on in the show. But we've got other business to attend to right now. Dan, I know we always start with Jay as far as like the overall how'd you feel question. So we're going to start with you this time. How did you feel about the month that was in newly charting singles in October 2024?
Actually, not bad at all. It's weird to say that, like, especially in a month where not a whole lot. Again, we're seeing a whole lot the last 2 months in September and October that kind of the top of the charts really just kind of hung on to the songs of the summer. And there's not been a whole ton of movement. So the stuff that cracked through is pretty new or really just, and by say pretty new, I mean it's stuff that took a slow rise. Like I think I have 3 songs that were released as singles in April and are just now getting up to they're slow burners. What can you say? Slow burners when they take the opportunity when a hole presents itself to slide into the top 40. So needless to say, I'm probably going to be disappointing. Not that that's anything new. Nope. Nope. Can't get the bat off my shoulder. It was going to be a sex joke, but I just couldn't get there. Either way, the bottom of the list might be a little underwhelming, but it's because it's like not terrible. So I don't know what else to say about it.
Did you mention just in terms of like how many there were this month versus other? Because I know it starts to slow down, obviously, towards the end of the year.
It does, and I think if we do, I don't know if we decide if we are going to do an actual review for December or just kind of wrap that into the end of the year stuff that we do. There's only 18 songs, and 6 of them were future. So,
Is that a tease for the bottom of the list?
No. Oh, wait. Maybe. Crap. But yeah, we're getting to the December level of stuff where the chart completely flips for the entire month of December and most of January, but all that hits are recharts of Christmas songs because that's all the people are streaming for an entire month. Or they started now, like some of the you crazy maniacs that don't even wait for Thanksgiving to show up. They don't even wait for flipping Halloween to finish up before you start bringing Santa's ass into it. No, I didn't work in a building that used to also house the station in the market that turned the Christmas music 24/7 as soon as it became November. My God.
Literally like November 1st, midnight, like that switch gets flipped.
Literally. And we used to have people asking us in September when and why not now.
I could give you a list of why not now.
Man, some people just like to watch the wheel burn. What can I say?
I swear. Move to the North Pole then.
I can't be mad at it.
No, see, that's I think maybe the more annoying part about it is that like can't really be mad. Oh, don't get me wrong, but that's like if you start, maybe it's just me, but if you start in October, I heard literally all the Christmas music by December 12th. Like there's like you've heard it all. Right. You've heard every song you could hear again, and most of the time you've heard them multiple times.
Because how many Christmas classics are there? Maybe 20, if that. And there may not even be 20 that you would consider like, oh, this is a staple song of the Christmas season.
Right. And then you're just going through different people's versions.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a different podcast episode.
I was just going to say, I feel like we're doing a different show. We should probably, let's focus on October. But really the question then is, so how did the month look to the two of y'all on the album side?
Honestly, I am not mad at it. I had a pretty great month of listens. The good was goddamn good. And the bad was few and far between. And also I skipped most of what I knew was going to be bad. There was a lot of stuff that I was like, you know what? I can give that one a miss. And I'm probably better off. Every once in a while I say that, and then Zack comes in with a punch to the face of, hey, that was a great record. And then I feel like an idiot. But most of the time he's on the same page as me. So Zack, how did you feel about it?
Most of the same, I would say. Like, I don't know that my highs were as high as your highs were. I definitely don't think there's anything that's going to be a surprise to you. I think there are some artists that I had not been familiar with, a couple that were older artists that was not at all familiar with, and really, really vibed with this month. But I don't think there's really any curveballs on my list at all.
Cool. I have guesses, but I'll wait to hear them.
Oh, yes.
Well, boys, if that's the case, the both of you should make like Lordy, have a merry something and a happy blah, 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 and someone give me your number 3 album.
You know what? I will jump in. I'll dip my toe in for my number 3. And I will say that this is actually one of the ones, in fact, the major one that I was alluding to in terms of an artist that I just somehow had missed since 1986. I don't know exactly how I did that. Actually, I do know exactly how I did that because they're Australian and I am extremely uncultured and I don't know anything that happens outside of the walls of this country. However, I am happy that I did finally get my hard on.
Yeah.
No, that's not it.
Nope.
That's staying in, I'm sure. The band is the Hard-Ons. Like I said, they've been around since 1986. They've had 15 studio albums, including this month's release, I Like You a Lot, Getting Older. Listen to the first track of this album. It's the semi-titular, I guess I would call it. The track is called I Like You a Lot. It's fine. It's all right. It's not going to wow you. It's not going to knock your socks off. I promise you need to go past that. You need to move to track 2, Buzz, Buzz, Buzz. And then especially once you get to track 3, these days are long, you're going to know exactly what you're getting out of this album. It has that sort of kick your acidness kind of punk to it, with each track going pretty hard. It's not necessarily like the sound that you would get in the 80s or even the 90s, which is remarkable considering, again, 1986 was their first release. This can safely be added to the pile of older established artists that release refreshingly modern sounding music in 2024. And I was super stoked to come to know it and for it to be my number 3.
I am so here for that pick. It's on my honorable mentions list. It's a wonderful record. It's one of those bands that I'm not new to them. They're very much like in that sort of, I don't know. They're like a grunge side piece, if you will. Like they're kind of over here off to the side. And it was nice to me to hear, aging rockers be just as irreverent as they were back when they were writing albums called Dick Cheese. I think it's their second album, actual album title. And it's a beautiful record. Beautiful might be the wrong word. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's you nailed it. Their second album, Dick Cheese, following up their debut album from 1986 called Smell My Finger. Their third album, the also sophomorishly titled Love is a Battlefield of Wounded Hearts. What?
Yep.
Where did that come from?
Nope, that's off to the side.
It's one of those that I will definitely be diving into their past discography, and I've got a lot to choose from, so I'm gonna be busy for a bit.
Yeah, you got a lot to choose from. I will say I have not listened to their entire catalog. They kind of reunited in the aughts, and I didn't really get into them, but I'm looking at those album titles thinking, yeah, I should have done that. Alfalfa Males, Once Summer is Done, Conform or Die. That's just brilliant. I'm going to have to go back to that.
Oh my God. Outstanding. I'm excited. I am also excited, my friend, as I always am, to hear your list. And we're going to start as I did with your number 3.
I feel weird about following up your number 3 with my number 3. I don't know why, though. I'm just going to go for it. I've been a somewhat fan of Rag and Bone Man since his first full length back in 2018. His second full length had more than a few missteps, but was ultimately a pretty good listen. For his third record, What Do You Believe In, Rory has finally nailed the whole thing. He has brought the soul and gospel blues vibes from his early work and used that to smooth over the ungainliness of his needy pop hunger. And the result is an absolute banger of a record. It's bluesy and powerful with occasional bursts of like ultra catchy electronic tracks. The deluxe version of the album it contains a lot of the same songs with the addition of Calvin Harris, and you can barely tell he's there, rendering the album cut far superior. Lyrically, it's Rory's best work. It's an inspirational slugfest, starting with the like self-deprecation and flaws that are endemic in everyone and dragging you out the other side toward a sense of enlightenment. Case in point, the title track, What Do You Believe In? The line is, every mistake I've made is a friend of mine, taught me to come back 100 times. Every hill I didn't die on is a mountain I climbed. Poignant, cool, easy. Like, it is not a difficult lyric to wrap your head around, but still awesome. There's a lot more, but I'm going to let you discover those for yourselves.
Now, I'm going to say something. I feel like I want to make sure it's not at all misinterpreted by anyone listening or by the two of you, because if you physically look at Rag and Bone Man and Jelly Roll, they have a lot of physical similarities. I don't want to touch on that at all because it doesn't matter, because that's not what's important. What I'm touching on is the fact that they also have a lot of vocal and songwriting and lyrical similarities too, because as you were talking about this album, I was almost implanting Jelly Roll's latest album that also came out this month called Beautifully Broken, kind of implanting that in my head and thinking, is this actually the same album? Is Rag and Bone Man just the bluesy, quote unquote, brother from another that Jelly Roll has been in the country world?
I don't know. I didn't listen to the Jelly Roll record, so I cannot confirm or deny what you're saying right now. I just know I really dug the Rag and Bone Man, and if the Jelly Roll record is a close related cousin to this album, I am not mad at that either.
Well, I will admit that I did not listen to the Rag and Bone Man album, so it sounds almost like we listened to the same album but by two different people.
Did you like the Jelly Roll record as much as I liked the Rag and Bone record?
I did indeed. And I know that Jelly Roll has been kind of somewhat of a country darling over the last 2 years, really, more than anything, here in Nashville, and then getting more of a national and global exposure most recently. And I feel like at first it was more novelty than anything. Like, oh, he's another country boy. Cool. We'll add him to the list. Country's having a resurgence, and he can be part of it, But then it started to come out, and folks started to realize, kind of similar to Chris Stapleton, like, holy shit, this guy can actually write a song. This guy actually has not the best vocals, but the right vocals, the correct vocals for the music that he's singing. Very similar to Rag and Bone Man. And the album Beautifully Broken that released this month was just absolutely phenomenal.
Cool.
And I'm actually going to do a little retconning here because of how well it led into what I'm talking about. And I'm going to make this my number 2.
Nice.
I did have a few. I won't go into all of my notes because I wrote way more than I thought for what was supposed to just be an honorable mention. But it is like, just rewind what Jay already said about Rag and Bone Man, about the sort of triumph, about the large amount of vulnerability, about, the flaws, about being flawed as a person, about making mistakes, being a person who is fallible. So much of the same stuff kind of comes into play in the Jelly Roll album. It's uncanny how similar those two, and that's why I said I don't want it to seem like, oh, they look alike. Of course, they put out the same album. Like, it has nothing.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that, because it was one of those that I was like, well, I could, or I could not, and that would be okay with me too. And I moved on to other things. So it sounds like I made a mistake on that one, and I'm going to have to go back.
I mean, it's, again, just another corollary. Like, this is the one where Jelly finally puts it together. I thought the same thing. Like, this is going to be fine. It's going to be all right. And I almost also gave it a pass, but for exactly the same reason. But yeah, it is cool to see someone of that sort of stature who's had a long time in the industry. I'm assuming Rag and Bone Man has been in the game for a long time. I know that Jelly Roll has.
Not a terribly long time. His first hit was 2017.
Oh, okay.
So
well, he's been at least in the game of life for a long time.
Yeah,
he's 39. Jelly Roll is interesting, 39.
Are you serious?
They're the same person. This is scary, guys.
Conspiracy theories? Anyone?
They're swirling.
Is this like the Avril Lavigne story with fake Avril Lavigne? And I don't know what's happening right now. Wow.
Yeah, you got to pull us out of this, man. We're gonna end up in a weird place.
Wow. You know what else is a weird place? I don't know where these guys are from. That was a terrible segue because I didn't look it up. My number 2 record is from an artist that I had only heard of a few weeks before the release of this album. Their debut album had been recommended to me by a friend. And I liked it so much that I marked my calendar for the new release when I saw that it was coming out. Balance and Composure, with their 3rd full-length record, With You in Spirit. It's nothing short of magnificent. It's grungy and crunchy. It's melodic. It's deep. It's beautiful. I want to have more to say about the record, honestly, but I just don't. It's kind of been the thing that's been missing from my listening. That almost rhymed. I'm sorry. It's guitar heavy, but it's not egregious. The vocals are melodic, but they don't feel like sweet or saccharine or overly produced or any of those things. And the best part is that all of the parts of this album are arranged in ways that are innovative and cool, but they don't sound forced like a lot of rock innovation tends to sound. It's not proggy or new wavy. It's just rock music that is well put together. It's basically first wave emo coming back in 2024. It's hard hitting, it's emotional, it's loud, it's beautiful, it is lyrically deep, and it was one of my favorite listens this month. It came out in the first full week of the year, I think, or full week of the month, and I don't think it's left my rotation since.
Very nice. Yeah, I know at least several friends of mine whose ears would immediately perk up with everything you said, don't get me wrong, but especially the first wave emo.
Yeah.
I feel like first wave emo is making a fun resurgence, which is very cool.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if this is one you're familiar with. It almost felt like gatekeeping to not recommend it to you before today. Like I was like, this is Zach's jam. And then I just kept forgetting to tell you. I didn't do it intentionally.
Right. Oh,
I just kept
no.
forgetting.
Plus, like some of those artists, like you got to keep them close to the vest. Like this isn't someone that I'm going to just let off, for free. You got to pay for this one.
Nope, I don't like that at all. I'm not I'm not some, music recommendation only fans over here where like this is the content you've got to pay for. The rest of it's up on XTube.
Jesus Christ. Balance and composure is something that we don't have here on this podcast, by the way. Listeners, if you haven't realized that by now, oh boy, apologies to you.
No, but it's a wonderful album, and if you like the Sunny Day Real Estates, but with a little more melody, or honestly, the best comparison I can make to it, and I'm feeling really sorry that I didn't tell you about it ahead of time, is Biffy Clyro.
My goodness, yeah, that's a must listen then. Yeah, Wikipedia also echoes your thoughts of Sunny Day Real Estate. They call them akin to like a Jawbreaker, a Braid, a Title Fight. So very much in that same sort of vein. Granted, Title Fight came a little bit after like the first wave emo.
Jawbreaker, not Jawbox?
Jawbreaker, yes.
Interesting.
Maybe also Jawbox, but
that's what I would have thought. Jawbox, not Jawbreaker. This is feeling like a tongue twister in the making, so I'm going to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, let's pivot down as we always do and talk about the things that just barely made the cut or barely missed the cut, because that's how cuts work. We'll go to our honorable mentions here. And the first one, and I feel really bad now because this was actually my original number 2 before everything flowed in so nicely for Beautifully Broken. And that was the album No Obligation from the Linda Lindas. Awesome punk that kind of toes right up to the line of pop punk. Doesn't quite cross it, which I think really works well for them as a group. Lots of edge, lots of just really, really great music. Also, Coldplay, weirdly enough, with Moon Music, because look, like it's miles better than Music of the Spheres. Now, granted, a full length consisting of nothing but samples of various dogs shitting in various parks would be better than Music of the Spheres, but that's not the point. The point is that this is an actual Coldplay album with actual Coldplay vibes, and even the things that don't sound like old school Coldplay still sound pretty good. Not great, and certainly not in their best albums, but much more enjoyable than I had expected. Also, I am nothing if not a 12-year-old, so I certainly gravitated to the artist called Come Girl 8, who I'm fairly certain we have actually extolled the virtues of Come Girl 8 before on this podcast. This was their debut full-length album, The Eighth Coming. Of course, that's what it was called. It was messy, it was plotting, it was indescribable in a lot of ways, delivered to your ears by, in the band's own words, a sex-positive alien amoeba entity. And I don't think I could describe it any better than the band did themselves, so I'm going to leave that one at that. Yeah.
I didn't listen to it this time. I listened to it last time, and I got to say I actually quite enjoyed it. And I, in a fit of self-flagellation, I did listen to the Coldplay record, and I came up with a very different result than you did.
Oh, do tell.
I mean, I don't really feel like I need to. It wasn't worse than Music of the Spheres.
Yeah.
I don't think it was much better either.
That was a bad point of analogy because that's such a bad. The three of us would put together something that sounded like Beethoven compared to Music of the Spheres.
Yeah. I could drop this beer bottle on the floor and the sound it makes is better.
Oh, guaranteed. That's easy.
But it might also be better than the new one.
Maybe I'm jaded because it was so bad, because it's like, oh, this is so much better than that one, but that one was so bad already.
Yeah, I suppose by comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the sixth best Coldplay album in their catalog, but certainly their best over the last two albums.
Fair enough.
What else caught your eye this month?
Weirdly enough, the thing I went out on a rant about the last time we brought up Coldplay and them dropping an album on the same week that another artist dropped a record, they did it again this year, and that was with Phineas of, Billie Eilish fame, for his second full-length album, For Crying Out Loud. He actually put together a gem. There's some really good stuff on this album. Not good enough to dethrone anybody that I was putting in my top 3, but it was quite a good listen, and I'm here for it. The song For Crying Out Loud, the title track, has actually made quite a few of my rotational lists. Yeah. To go along with hard-ons on this list, I also threw on Pixies, for they dropped an album this month as well called The Night the Zombies Came. It's cool. It's a very cool album. It would be hard for the Pixies to release an album that wasn't cool, and this comes as no surprise. It's a cool album. You should listen. In a similar vein is Peach Pit and their album Magpie. That was just a fun, funky indie pop record. The only reason that I'm not putting it in my top 3 is that I can't remember a single track from it. It's a blur. Like the whole album is good, and every time I listen to it, which I've done now 3 times since it was released just a few days ago, and I'm sunk into it and I'm jamming, but no single track stood out to me, and that for that reason that I can't pinpoint any specific lyric or anything that drew me to it. Just the album as a whole was fun and cool. And lastly, I am a sucker for some Alice in Chains, and Jerry Cantrell dropped a record called I Want Blood, and it's an Alice in Chains album. It's Alice in Chains. So if you like Alice in Chains, like I do, it's a great record. It's very guitar heavy. The songs are cool. They're all about 5 minutes long, and the album it's a little formulaic for like some early to mid 90s post grunge, I suppose, like almost metal. But it's a really cool listen. It's well made. The vocals are stunningly awesome. Well worth your time.
It's awesome. Awesome list. Yeah, Jerry Cantrell was certainly on my short list of things I didn't get a chance to circle back to. The Peach Pit actually was as well. That was probably towards or at the very top of my list of things that I wish that I had a chance to listen to.
Yeah. I mean, it was only a couple of days ago, at fourth wall break here. It was only released a few days ago. So it doesn't surprise me you didn't get a chance, but it is worth the listen. I will be going back to it. Maybe, given a change in mood or scenery, one of those songs will jump out at me.
Yeah, that was really interesting about like the kind of the end of the month sort of off, because we typically have releases that come out on Fridays every week, pretty much like clockwork. And then there'll be a few things that are usually from like smaller artists. A lot of like Korean pop as well will release like outside of those Friday dates. But there were 2 that released literally as we sit today, and then 3 days from now that may have made one or both of our lists had we had a chance to really give them their due. And that was, as you and I talked about, West Side Gun's latest release, 11. And then just today, Tyler, the Creator, with a release called Chromacopia.
Yeah.
Which I did listen to. I didn't listen to it enough to really put it on a list or keep it off a list because I didn't have enough time to, but
yeah,
it was weird. I'll say it was weird.
It's weird. Good.
Super weird.
That bodes well for it. I haven't listened to it yet. I plan on it, but we can lump those 2 in with November's if we feel the need to. There's only about 4 albums dropping in November, so we'll have room.
There you go. Yeah, if they're really good or really bad, you'll hear about them next month. Otherwise, assume that they were mid.
Yeah, cool.
I'll tell you what's not mid though.
I was going to use the same segue, so you just do the thing. I'm going to
do the thing. Real quick, I'm going to do the thing. It's not going to take long. I will start with a quote directly from my number 1 artist, where she talks about the inspiration that she got to become a musician in the first place from a Nelson Mandela tribute concert. She said, quote, "I was 10 years old watching someone who looked like me play the guitar. I asked my parents for a guitar that Christmas. And thank goodness that Joy Aladakun saw that show. Otherwise, we may not have ever gotten the beautiful music that we've gotten to her up until this point, including October's release and my number one album of the month, Observations from a Crowded Room. The artist that Joy was referring to was none other than the similarly legendary and indomitable Tracy Chapman. And upon listening to Observations from a Crowded Room, you can immediately sense the influence. Oladakun's songwriting chops are undeniable, very, very much in the storyteller vein. Her vocals are warm, inviting, asking if you want to have a seat for a conversation, but knowing ahead of time that that conversation is not necessarily going to be happy or cheerful. Because Joy does stunning, stunning work discussing complex and very difficult topics, such as just a small list that show up on this album include things like drug use, race, and self-worth, with a firm resolution that doesn't counter, but instead complements her soft delivery of the difficult topics. I could go on and on and on about this, but I will instead just end with more from Olada herself as she continues to wax poetic about one Tracy Chapman, because I could hear good things about Tracy Chapman for hours as well. Olada said, quote, "You could just tell that what drove her to open her mouth in the first place was conviction, belief in her values, and belief that if people would only think about this, it would change the world." I'm pretty sure that I just said the same exact thing in different but similar words about Joy herself, and I stand by those words 100%. Beautiful, wonderful, delightful album.
I did not get to listen to that one, and now I feel left out. I mean, it sounds great. I want to hear it. That will be my first thing to do when it close on this here window.
I think you will enjoy. I am curious to hear if you also hear the same Tracy Chapman vibes that I do, or if you're sensing anything else from it. But yeah, I would be surprised if you didn't like it, but I've been wrong before, so very curious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll like it. As far as whether I like it as much as you do, we'll see.
For sure.
But for those that are wondering, if you happen to be in Australia or New Zealand at the moment, you can catch her opening tour shows with Hozier in November.
What a show that would be. Holy shit.
Yeah. It's the Unreal Unearth tour. Actually, what's weird enough here is that my number one artist shares something in common with your number one artist.
Oh.
The gender nonconformity and totally not in the binary way of looking at things, using she, they pronouns. My number one artist is Halsey. One of the things that I am on record as being a fan of is we'll quote unquote call it an album of catharsis. Love those. The most recent treasure in that particular trove is The Great Impersonator by Halsey. This album is an unapologetic, brutal reckoning with chronic illness, inspired by their recent battles against a double punch diagnosis of leukemia and lupus, which came after an ugly separation from their partner shortly after the birth of their first child. It should come as no surprise that the material that came from that experience is the gut punchiest emotion wrench that has dropped this year. Through their own style, Halsey has paid homage to the artist that made her who she is. So there's another thing in common with Joy. She paid tribute to Cher, Kate Bush, Linda Ronstadt, Dolly Parton, Amy Lee, PJ Harvey, Stevie Nicks, Bruce Springsteen, Dolores O'Riordan, Aaliyah, Tori Amos, Joni Mitchell, David Bowie, Bjork, and Britney Spears, the likeness of whom she is interpolated into the video for Lucky, which, caused Britney Spears to do a little head scratching. But after a little explaining, she was fine with it. It all adds up to like a really just elaborate joke, but it's a testament to how good the underlying material is here, that this particular gamble doesn't distract from the actual music and the power of the stuff that she's wrestling with throughout the record. Lyrically, this is easily her best work. She's always been a poet, but this is hands down her best work. The songs Lonely is the Muse, Ego, and Arsonist standing out on top for me. Musically, it's also her most daring. Again, just my own personal opinion here. It's her most daring, and Lonely is the Muse stands as the shining example of what catharsis can be / feel / sound like. Particularly the line, I will always reassemble to fit perfectly for you, which is brilliant on a level that most pop artists can only aspire to. Lonely is the Muse, by the way, has quickly become like a front runner for me for Song of the Year. And The Great Impersonator is in contention for me for Album of the Year.
The queen of the uncanny, the mistress of metamorphosis. Beware of the great impersonator, in Halsey's own words. I don't know that Halsey is impersonating anything outside of a terrible artist. No, that wasn't. Okay, no. I was trying to be clever. What I was trying to say is that Halsey is amazing, and the only thing that she could impersonate is something, I don't know. Again, fog brain. This album is great. Halsey's great. She's not. There's nothing wrong with this album. There's nothing wrong with Halsey. It is amazing.
Nailed it. Stuck the landing.
5-yard penalty.
Yes.
Repeat second down.
Agreed. Yellow card, red card, all the cards for me.
I do enjoy it when we have drama on the show. I do enjoy that. This just would have come as a big surprise to me.
How awful would it be after you have this like beautifully glowing review about someone who's been through so many things that puts all of those things into this album? And then I'm like, it was shit. It was absolute shit. She sucks. She's the fucking worst.
That's my territory. That's the kind of crap I pull on this show. That's not your job.
No, to try to put what I said in a different and hopefully more sensical way, Halsey does not have to impersonate anything or anyone because she is the very best version of everything that she does.
Yeah.
There. That sounded a lot better than the first thing I said.
Started to sweat there for a moment.
No, fantastic choice, obviously. She's been killing it since she hit the scene. I know specifically her previous 2 albums, Manic and If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. Absolutely stunning. The Great Impersonator. If that is higher on a tier than those 2, then I don't know how you get any higher than those 2 previous albums. But
it is for me. But like I said, that's because it's a darker record. So, I mean, obviously the shit that Halsey's going through in their life, like that's not anything that can be reduced to, I don't know, a simple song. So that the stuff that's come out on this record is just, it's a gut punch. That's the best way I can put it. But it's a really well written, really well produced, beautifully arranged, and wonderfully sung gut punch.
Yeah, just to have the courage to put all that out there. I mean, it's out there, obviously. It's in the public domain, but just to be able to evoke those negative emotions and feelings and hurt of what you went through is just, there's no version of me that could do that.
Right.
Great album, great choice. And
do it with this sort of, I don't know, just grace, poise, and presence that she's doing. This is it's wonderful.
Awesome choice. Despite what it may have came off to the contrary a couple minutes ago. Truly great choice. Well, I feel like I have inserted my foot into my mouth enough times for one episode, so I'm going to hand it off to Dan for his top 40 roundup. Yeah, Dan, go ahead and do the thing that you do with the stuff that you do with.
Do you let me fumble with the charts as opposed to your fumble? So that's
if you don't mind, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, no, totally. I could do that. I could absolutely do that. If I weren't, I wouldn't be living the gimmick now, would I?
That is true.
So yeah, as I said, it's a relatively short list, so I'm actually highlighting quite a bit of it, believe it or not. And to start here, where I say, hi, welcome to my new segment, things I never thought I'd be reviewing positively. I'm part of the show where I come in with a bias, expecting one thing and then getting completely surprised. And today's subject is this month's honorable mention, Addison Rae's Diet Pepsi. Move past the name. and the expectations that go there, it's a pretty good pop track. It manages to be both dreamy and sultry at the same time, which, those are not words that really go together. But it has a vibe in the same way that Haley Steinfeld's singles have. But regardless, a well-constructed young love / sex jam that works within the genre a whole lot better than another track we will talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, didn't expect that to be the lead off there.
It's the stunned silence is what I was going for there.
You achieved it.
Yeah,
well done.
I got nothing.
Yep, that's what I figured we'd be there. So let's just move on and admit that sometimes the most effective songs are the ones that do the most while excelling its simplicity. And that's what we have at number 3 this month. The first charting track from singer-songwriter Gigi Perez, Sailor Song. An acoustic guitar, a decent amount of reverb, and the longing and lust of spending an extended period of time away from the target of your affections. It doesn't have to be a lifelong partner. In this case, just someone you fancy. Someone, as Gigi says, looks like Anne Hathaway, maybe, if we could all be so lucky. Perez says that he started with the line, "Kiss me on the mouth and love me like a sailor," and went from there. And where it went was spinning indie folk gold. A simple reflection on attraction and desire that evokes the longing of a sailor pining for shore leave and the one waiting there for them. A shanty of longing, if you will, and a beautiful track at that. Also, it led to calls from a certain section of TikTok to change the lyrics, especially the line, "I don't believe in God, but I believe that you're my savior. And if you're pissing off far-right talk, you're doing something right, in my humble and correct opinion."
It is an absolute jam. It is a jam that does seem weird for the TikTok space, I guess. But obviously it's lived there and it's done extremely well there. Which means I know nothing about the TikTok space because that's the last thing I would have thought of when hearing this specific song.
Right.
I don't think I know it. And I hate that I don't know it.
You might not be able to avoid it if you spend enough time in the right spots, right ends of TikTok. So
Yeah,
that happens. That happens.
Yeah, certainly not Gigi's first foray into the TikTok viral sphere either.
No, she had like about 6 songs or so that kind of caught fire as singles like that, and mostly on the back of the social media success. This is the first one that made it into the charts.
Yeah, I suspect not the last, if I had to guess.
Agreed.
Cool. Hey, I'm here for it.
Moving on, and who'd have thought that not only would we have 2 indie sounding tracks chart in a month, but they would be 2 of the best of the month as well. October has graced us with the 4th single off Khalid's first album since 2019's Free Spirit, and lives up to a review from the Aurora Sentinel, who called the whole sincere record a, quote, "collection of beautiful harmonies and airy and spare rhythms, melting together like a sticky popsicle on the dash." It's a really good description of the album and of the number 2 song of the month, Heatstroke. Look, man, you just can't deny a bop when it comes at you, and this is exactly what this song is. Khalid himself has said that it was inspired by 2010 indies pop, and those vibes are all over Heatstroke. It is laid back, it's chill, it hits all the right spots to be dropped right into the heart of that 2010s indie pop scene. And it's one of those songs that could fit into my favorite category, those happy sounding doom tracks, but could just as easily be taken as an uplifting bop. I keep looking for another word here, and there just isn't one. And I know that's bad writing, and I know I'm a hack and a fraud, so I'm kind of okay with it. But it also has the same quality of I Melt With You, where you can take a song and write it to have an apocalyptic bent, and you'd put it out there and still have people find a touching meaning out of it. And there's kind of something beautiful in that.
I was thinking about this actually just the other day, like that Khalid might be the most underrated R&B vocalist of the last at least 5, if not 10 years.
I don't disagree with that. I think he's a fantastic vocalist. I did think that the album, you know what, that review that said it was airy and spare, and like a melting popsicle on the dash, that's pretty spot on. But I didn't take that 100% in a positive way, because it just felt like it was one melted lump of cool, but not wonderful. His voice is butter, but the songs I thought but I at least know the song you're talking about this time.
Oh, that's good. Because even he's described it though as something you listen to and just go away from it and don't think about it, and then it just kind of floats back to you down the line.
Yeah,
like it stays with you, but not actively. I don't know how else to put it. And it's a perfect description of the song. And again, you'd think the artist would say a song, yeah, no, you can forget my song because it's not going to leave the back of your head. And it wouldn't necessarily be the best thing. You'd figure you'd want to be front of mind, but you don't have to be, apparently.
Yeah, because you catch a whiff of it in the store or on the radio or on TikTok, like we were just talking about, and poof, it's right there again.
Right.
Honestly, it feels like he's owning the space that he's in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Zach pointed out, underrated as a vocalist, but he understands the space he occupies and is crushing it in that space.
And foreshadowing, we're going to talk about someone else who that description could apply to in just a few moments.
Oh, literary device.
I swear, we don't rehearse. They have no idea what I'm going to say. I have no idea what they're going to say. The synchronicity is off the charts, and I wish to say we were trying, but we're not.
Not at all. It's just magic. It just works.
But being number 2, you know what we do. Start to rise to the top, then plummet to the bottom. And God, the bottom feels just different this month because anyway. The dishonorable mention falls to Gracie Abrams and I Love You and I'm Sorry. And it's not really a bad song. But, alas, this is how numbers go sometimes. This one, however, does sound like it came right off of Taylor's Folklore sessions. Like it wasn't quite enough of an indie folk donner to make the record, so it hit the cutting room floor. And it has all the hallmarks of the, hi, Aaron Dessner. Yeah. Yeah, you produced this one. You just slapped the Swift filter on this one and called it good, didn't you there, bud?
Sometimes you just know, there's a signature sound for certain producers.
True story.
Antonov. Sorry.
Shout out Jack Antonoff if you're listening.
I love checked. That was my first thought. But nope, it was Dessner.
Gotcha.
Dessner on that beat.
I can't.
You should scroll down to the when we re-rack the Billboard Hot 100 of 2014 to see why that joke hit so hard.
Well, I'm sure there are a few other tracks that similarly did not hit so hard.
Nah, not really. But there does come to a point where even I start to feel bad, kind of, for putting the same artist on this end of the list over and over again. And there are a number that longtime listeners probably could swear that I just absolutely hate the ground that they walk on. And in some cases, that is true. But most of the time, it's generally pure ambivalence, which is where I'm at with Meghan Trainor. The new track on the deluxe edition of Timeless was streamed enough, or more likely ended up in enough TikToks, to chart, and it leads Criminals into the number 16 spot this month. And again, is it really bad? No, not really. Not like some other Trainor tracks I could name. In fact, I give it points for not sounding like a Meghan Trainor track. It's closer to a pre-pandemic club track, if that makes sense, which sure is still a little dated of a sound, but it's not the dated sound that we're used to hearing from her. But the writing holds it back. Like Meghan has this thesis and she's gonna make sure you get it with a level of repetition that's a bit much, even for a song exclusively conceived to hit top 40 radio, which is honestly the chart it comes from. If you wanted to rock with the idea that anything that feels this good, must be illegal, this is your song. It's the tried and true joke that we throw at the Catholics, and I can do that as a former. But you'll hear that concept, that idea so many times that you'll wonder what exactly the behavior is that's so good yet so bad. And there's only limited descriptions of of whatever it is. It's not clear, but there's only limited descriptions in the song's 2 minute and 34 second runtime, which is a blessing and a curse. the song is thankfully short, so that repetition ends soon, but there's like not enough time or space to really flesh a concept out. Things could have been done here, but instead this must just be illegal. Be illegal. Be illegal. Yeah, it works out even less when I do it.
Now, I don't know if y'all thought the same thing. This is probably going to be out in left field. Again, cold brain is coming into play here. Was it just me, or did this sound like it could be a Eurovision track?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Like I said, it sounded like a pre-pandemic club track, and for all of the faults, a good chunk of the poppiest of pop out of Eurovision all sounds about 10 to 15 years behind the current trends. Yeah, and it always has. It always has seemed like Eurovision songs move slower than the zeitgeist.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, if you listen to, we had an episode where we covered some of the top listens, and a lot of those were very much like in the 2010s, in the late 20-aughts into the early 2010s. I didn't hate this song at all. Like you said, it's a short month. It's certainly not one that I would put at the top of my list. It would probably be somewhere square in the middle, but it was different. It was refreshingly different than every other song that is in every other Meghan Trainor album.
That's the thing. Admittedly, I had to double check to make sure I was listening to Meghan Trainor at first, because again, it just didn't sound like anything that she had put out. It didn't really even sound like the other singles off the Timeless record that we had talked about earlier. It's what rating everything on a number system does. Sometimes the stuff that isn't necessarily so bad that it should be complained about gets into an area where I have to complain about it. But at least she does me a solid and gives me something to complain about.
There you go.
Yeah. She's consistent in that regard.
Exactly.
What else joins her at the bottom of your barrel?
Well, I don't know about you, but I was kind of hoping that in the grand transfer from bro country over to boyfriend country, that latter trend would dissipate even faster. But alas, wow, and for the second time, I am alas, it has not, and it instead come for the biggest names in the game. So I must double down and drag down another, quote, heartfelt song into the muck, as Luke Bryan's Love You, Miss You, Mean It makes its way down to number 17. Bryan has been selling this as a relatable song that paints a timeless love story, and sure, maybe. Of course, who hasn't watched a love fade away from afar and felt the sting from several states away? It at least does all the expected country things behind all of the well-worn cliches packed into a track that is almost literally all chorus. Each verse is maybe 4 to 6 lines, and the bridge might actually be longer than all of the verses. It's not necessarily least common denominator writing, because if you believe all of his interviews, there's genuine emotions poured into this one. I guess at the end of the day, it's a relatively harmless track about trying to rekindle a lost love, and a normal person would probably take it in and move on, maybe taking a little bit of the story and either feeling a direct connection or a little of their own experience kind of creep up into the back of their throat. But I'm reviewing this song.
You robot.
And my cold, dead heart is unmoved. You're damn right. Cutting the track down to its rather uninteresting bones because it took 6 months to get into the view on the charts. It ends up here in a month where uninteresting is a cardinal sin. I don't know. It's October, and you can take this warm summer waif of a song and just, go ride the pine. Come back and talk to me when you're ready to play in football weather. Sunny afternoons on the sand dunes are gone until next year.
Yeah,
it's good. No, I got nothing.
Oh, I had less than nothing. No, I was going to say that it's exactly how you described it, Dan. It's country by numbers. It's, the lost love story. It's trope. It's full unadulterated trope. I don't know why the verse or the chorus is so long. I don't know why the bridge is so uncomfortably long. I kept listening to it and thinking to myself, and then there's Maud, and that just never happened.
Right. But, it literally is, how a story is supposed to be: exposition, climax, resolution.
Yeah.
And it's 90% exposition. There's never actually a climax, and there really isn't much of a resolution either.
It just goes straight to the denouement.
Pretty much. Oh, you called me out of the blue one. But that's it. Like, they called me out of the blue and I feel happy. Okay. Like, you got a call from a old high school flame in your early 40s. Yes, and?
Right.
I feel like you said, like if you listen to the interviews and you believe what he says, that there's a lot of, emotion and reality that he's pumped into this song, and that's cool. If that's true, why wouldn't you do something just a little bit different with the song to make it stand out from all your other, tropey nonsense that you've published? But then isn't he currently like with someone? And also,
oh hell, I don't know that much.
But then if there's a reality to the song, doesn't that kind of put her in an awkward spot? Or him? I don't know Luke Bryan's situation.
Me neither. But feeling that is like, part of it is, okay, so if this is about, I don't know if he's married or not. I think I saw things referring to his wife, so that's what I'm going to assume about. If this is the story of you and your wife and you were high school sweethearts who rekindled down the line,
that's a different song.
That's a completely different song. And if that's the case, like, this is completely inadequate for those feelings. Like, there should be so much more to this. We're creeping up to that level of, like, what is it? Jake, no. Sam Hunt is the name that I was trying to come up with and could not, when he was explaining that, I think, if I remember correctly, that Body Like a Back Road was about his fiance. And you're like, that is not the message that you would want to be delivering.
Missed the assignment, my guy. Oh my gosh.
Swung and missed. How does she feel about that? Did you ask her if it was cool to compare her to a worn out country road? I don't think that's the term of endearment you're thinking of.
No, but it gets even better with the way I misheard the lyric the first time I heard it, because I heard diving in my asshole instead of driving in my Astro.
See, I heard driving with my asshole. And
was something along those lines, right? we may have killed Zack just now.
I won't. I'll just leave that. Let's let that one marinate a little bit.
He's verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves.
I feel so, to break the fourth wall. I feel so bad because the poor dude was like, I'm having coughing fits today, and they've mostly calmed down. So I'm pretty sure I could record and hear him trying to kill the man and give him another one. Unintentionally too, and I swear I didn't even try. I thought that joke was like 5 years old.
At least.
Ooh, all right, we're good.
Oh man.
I unintentionally wrote the great transition. So with all of that said, we finally made it to the bottom. Though I don't think this will be as satisfying number 18 as normal. Like I said, being boring is enough to drag you down to the depths this month, because while there were very few songs that knocked it out of the park, a good number of artists found some interesting ways to drop in a single or slam a slider into the corner out and left and came up with a stand-up double. It's a lot of imagery to get to the song at the bottom of this month's chart. It's Future's Plutowski. And again, I have to add the caveat that it's really not a bad track, but it is a very plain track, especially compared to the rest of mixtape Pluto. I listened to almost all the record, not because it all charted, but when you just six of the 17 charted, so I'm like, may as well just let it roll. And while there's no doubt this is a Future record, for better or for worse, the rest of the songs all did something a little different, had something interesting, adding in some kind of elements, but Plutowski just hits you with a meh trap beat and some lines. It's just there. And that's about all there is to say about it. I mean, if it wasn't a 3-minute track, I would think, give it the benefit of the doubt of it's just like, it's an interlude between two other songs, and it caught on the chart just because the whole thing caught up because of streaming. But it takes up enough space that it's hard to believe it if you call it that. It's just kind of sitting there, taking up time that could otherwise be given to something else with a little more character, or just cut out altogether. And in a pretty all right month, that's enough to tumble to the bottom. See, told you it wasn't going to be that satisfying.
Yeah,
Just keep it in line with Plutowski.
Lazy. I mean, that's the best way I can think of to describe the song.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Or Future.
So Future has developed somewhat of a notoriety, I guess, on this podcast as being not the preferred trap artist of two of the three members of said show.
I guess not. No.
I mean, I don't love Future. I'm certainly not going to go to the mat for Future. Don't get me wrong. I think Future has way better tracks than arguably the majority of Mixtape Pluto, but specifically Plutowski that we're talking about.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
a lot of it is the production is ass, and certainly that's not Future's fault.
That's true. There's that. I mean, because listen, literally everything else that charted kind of sits right in the middle of the chart. Like Ski and Teflon Don and Too Fast actually was my preferred song of the five that hit it. But this one just, I nothing this one.
Yeah, same. It's just there. It just exists. It's whatever.
I'd like to be more vehement about it as well, but as I opted not to listen to it this time around, I should not be commenting.
Touche. Go to one thing I've used. If they're not going to put the effort in to make a decent track, I'm not going to put the effort in to do a full review.
Exactly. That feels fair.
I like it.
But after all that uninteresting, we have to get back up to the top and finish off with something far more interesting. And that would be the vocal stylings of one Rod Wave. Wave is apparently trying to become the King Gizzard of the R&B world, having started his career in 2017 and dropping 5 mixtapes before releasing a full-length studio album once a year, every year since 2019. 5 of those have gone platinum, and I'd bet Last Lap will as well. It's only been out for 2 weeks at the time of this recording, so it's only a matter of time. And the best track, though, isn't one of the 2 singles. It is a devastating anthem to loneliness and depression. The top song of October, 25. Once again, a very memorable vocal performance, trumps all, and that's what we got from Wave. He reflects on the realities on becoming an adult, and not the part of growing up that gets wailed about on pop punk and emo records. Wave is well out of high school, well into the real world, and all the possibilities of youth have started to become dimmed by the realities of human interactions and the weight of the real world. Yellow Card was looking through those rose-colored glasses, the period of being 18, 19, and 20, where you're still close enough to being a kid that you can still relive the glory days. Yeah, Rod Wave has gotten through all that and come out on the other side with the battle scars of anxiety and responsibility, broken relationships, and failing coping mechanisms. And I can describe those feelings so well because Wave describes them so well. In word and in tone, he is devastated and trying to make it through to tomorrow, like all of us. He's always been at his best, conveying the character of a brokenhearted man. It has made him one of the best and most underrated in the melodic rap game. But 25 goes above and beyond. It's Rod absolutely melting over a surprisingly light piano line, a line meant to evoke introspection and actually help call up memories. But there's enough minor keys around it that it's clear that this isn't trying to call up the good times. It's a track to enhance the somber, to play over a reel of moments that's been shot in black and white that are to document to the emotional grind. And the two are just married together perfectly. It's really a vibe you have to listen to fully experience its weight and all of it that propels it to being the number 1 track of October. And if you are so inclined, I'd recommend the album as a whole, but be warned, Fast Lap will have you feeling some kind of way at the end, but at least you had an hour-plus long journey of good music to get there.
Snaps around.
Yep.
No argument with that pick. I would agree with you. I think in the same way that, I would say that, we talked about Khalid being an underrated vocalist. And I would say that overall, I think Rod Wave is as well. Yes. Because when he hits, it's fire. And when he doesn't hit, it falls into that lazy category where like, okay, that song wasn't great, but it's because you didn't put anything into that.
Like you only kind of tried.
Yeah. Like at worst, it's lazy. When it's at best, it's 25.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
For sure. And just like we talked about production making or breaking a song with Plutowski, not that there was much to make there, regardless of how good the production was. The production on 25 is sublime. It's crisp. It's like you said, it's that piano lick is just aces for the song.
Yeah, no notes.
Cool. I think this might be one of the rare months where I think I wrote more for the number one song than I did for the last song on the list.
Yeah. Well, like you said, like mostly it's a short list this month, and most of it was meh.
Yeah. Most of the stuff that was at the bottom was meh, not bad. Nothing really to sink my hate into.
Well,
damn it.
It's going to get less next month with lesser charting singles, lesser album releases, obviously, as we get into the new year. But we've got a lot of stuff lined up that doesn't have anything to do with the newly charting singles and new albums. So we'll keep you fed throughout the year. Don't y'all worry about that.
Just feed me the ball, coach.
The man eat, he said. The man said he's hungry. And if you're hungry, listeners, for more Fairly KickAss content.
Because why wouldn't you be after this?
We got plates on plates, just full, ready to serve. Wherever you get your podcast, you can search for this here Fairly KickAss podcast. There's a lot of good stuff that we've already posted throughout the last few months. A lot of great stuff on the horizon, like I mentioned. So go check us out. Just search for Fairly KickAss podcast, and you will find us. If you don't find us, please let us know so we can make sure that we can rectify that and get our show to your ears. Where to do that, how to get in touch with us, you might ask? Well, good question. That has a similarly good answer. At Fairly KickAss is all you need to remember on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. That will get us to you. No, that will get you to us, which will then in turn get us to you, I guess. I don't know how social media works. I've never been on it, as you can tell. I don't have a computer. What I do have is a knowledge of our email address, which is fairlykickass@gmail.com, that you could go to. Yes, you go to an email. I think that's how it works. Send us an email. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Let us know what you think on the social medias. Go to fairlykickass.com for the ride-along playlist for this episode and all the other ones. If you want to hear what we're hearing, that's going to be the easiest way that you can catch up with it. And I think that's somehow everything that I didn't forget a single thing, and I don't know how.
Aces.
Thank you. It took a lot. It took all the concentration I had.
I don't know where else to go from that.
We should just end it.
Worst ending ever.